Mino Line Media presents the Business First Podcast.
Hi, all, and welcome to a new episode of Business First with Sonia Aline. And today we are going to be talking about the business of aesthetic and plastic surgery. And joining us here are the owners of Haus, which is the first and only aesthetic plastic surgery center on Capitol Hill. And so the principals are Sorrell Cooper, who is a board-certified nurse practitioner and president and CEO. Wendy Pittman, who has more than 20 years experience in the medical aesthetics industry and is vice president of business development. And Sonia Lowry Young, who is a licensed medical esthetician, and she is VP of marketing and information. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. So first I want to talk some numbers here. I was surprised to find that, or maybe I wasn't surprised, that in 2022, in the US, $11.8 billion was brought in facial, I shouldn't just facial, it was aesthetic and plastic surgery. And it is projected to be a $75 billion market in 2030. So you guys have definitely settled into the right business. What do you think is actually driving some of the growth in this industry?
I'll take that. I think that a lot of it, it started before COVID, but I think the big boom happened with the whole Zoom, well, we call it Zoom boom. Everyone is on Zoom, everyone is on their cameras and their phones and doing selfies, and they are looking at their own reflection and not necessarily liking what they see. So they are starting to come in more for aesthetic services, and we've been able to benefit from that.
The other interesting thing is that years ago, plastic and cosmetic surgery was something like you never talked about, right? Like you might notice that people look different, or it was a thing just for the Hollywood elite. And now that's something that almost anybody and everybody is considering. What do you think has driven the comfort level with being able to talk about it freely and to have no shame around fixing the things that people want to see fixed on their bodies?
So I'll take that question, Sonia. So we can give a whole lot of thanks to the Kardashians for that.
Okay.
They get a lot of attention, both good and bad. But one of the things that the Kardashians have been able to do is really drive a lot of Gen Z and millennials to looking into doing non-invasive procedures to enhance themselves. And much like Sonia added, with post-COVID being driven by the Zoom boom, you find that combination of the Kardashians that predate COVID and then COVID actually colliding with it, that you find that people are really looking after themselves from a holistic point of view. So not only are they looking to enhance themselves, face and body, they're looking to enhance themselves with exercising more, eating better. So all of these things are synergistic. But I always make a joke that we have in the aesthetic industry in terms of what the reflection is in terms of the market by and large, and how people talk and communicate about the things that they're doing. And what we find is that folks that are in the LA market tend to show you what they've done. New York tends to tell you what they've done. And DC, being the more conservative of the three, doesn't say anything. Wow. That tends to be still somewhat of the same, but you're still finding that people are looking to not so much want to put their images into apps to enhance them when they know that they can get something in the vein of a non-invasive procedure like Botox, something very quick and easy, dermal fillers, chemical peels, PRX derm perfection. So any of those things fall in line with the busy person that's looking to make enhancements.
Right.
And so
yes, please, Sorrell.
I'll also add that we really can't underscore the impact that social media has had.
I mean, just the transparency that people have taken to social media, showing every aspect of their lives, sharing what their beauty routines are, etc., and the accessibility of that information, how, easy it is to get information from people all around the world through social media. It's had a humongous impact. Even there's research that supports the idea that the front-facing camera on our phones has had a significantly measurable impact on interest and pursuit of facial plastic surgery procedures. So just the ability to see ourselves in animation in ways that we don't typically when we're just looking in the mirror has had a really big impact on people's ideas about their, what they want to do with their face or how pleased they are with their natural features.
Right. And further to that, every once in a while we'll hear about someone who either had a really bad setback or someone who had passed. And what's interesting about plastic surgery is the conversation around it then becomes maybe why you shouldn't do it. Where you don't really have that conversation with any other medical procedure when something may go wrong. And so how do you manage any of that when there's bad press or people are concerned about safety? How have you been able to navigate some of that, the messaging around that, and making people feel comfortable about having any of these procedures done?
I'll take that one.
Okay.
Yeah, when it comes to any medical procedure, there is going to be risk associated. That's not something that we can really get away from. I mean, there are risks associated even with like the diets that we eat, right? If we were to not leave our homes, even in our homes, we're just always managing risk. So when it comes to plastic surgery, because it's considered elective, there is that, it's like, okay, it's not necessary, so why take the chance? And ultimately, I think the most important thing is to be as responsible as possible when approaching the procedure. So making sure that you fully vet your provider, whoever your surgeon is, that you've done the research on the procedure, that you follow the advice of the surgeon, right? A lot of people don't follow their surgeon's advice. So all of these things are important when taking the steps towards setting yourself up for the best possible outcome. Because of course, nobody ever wants someone to pass away as a result of an elective procedure, but we also don't want people to have any sort of negative outcome as a result of an elective procedure. So when it boils down to it, we really want for you to partner with us and make sure that you are taking the advice, that you're following the rules, that you're, doing all of the steps that we recommend and working in partnership with us, disclosing your medical history. All of these things are very, very important to making sure that we can reduce the risk that is inherently present as much as possible.
Also, you all also have very interesting backgrounds. And so, how was it that you decided to come together? If I get it, if I have it correctly, Wendy and Sonia, you two were friends before
Yes.
and talked about, and this all happened pretty quickly, right? In 2021 is when the conversation first started. What was that conversation and how did it lead to the three of you now working together?
Well, I called her and said, girl, I would love to be able to work for myself. And my idea about this thing was very, very small and simple. But that does not have anything to do with Wendy Pittman. She is grand. She is on a grand stage all by herself. And when I talked to her about it, she said, girl, we can do this. And it got wheels turning. And I think we both started bouncing ideas off of each other. And that is how it grew from something pretty small to what we have today, because then she started bringing in wonderful people, talented people like Sorrel, who is phenomenal. In my opinion, she is the best injector in Washington, D.C. And of course, we have a wonderful board certified plastic surgeon as well, who just kind of brings us all together. I think all of our different backgrounds bring in something amazing because we each bring something so different to this party.
And if I can add to that, Sonia, I think we also had really supportive significant others that jumped right in and did a lot of the heavy lifting that we needed done. So you may be looking at the three of us as spearheading all of this, but behind us were our significant others that supported us through this process. And then behind them were other people very seasoned in the dermatology sector that made sure that we didn't fall into those pitfalls that they fell into when they started their practices. And so it was a lot of don't do this, don't do that. Mm-hmm. So we became very accustomed to taking the advice of those that had gone before us, that were willing to share all of their wins and losses with us so that we could create a pathway of success for ourselves on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Yeah. I'm glad you said that, Wendy, because that was going to be my follow-up question. Like, what made you think in 2021 that you could move so quickly? And because that is, I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs who have great ideas, who, like Sonia said, they were tired of working for other people. They, they want to be able to launch their own projects. And so what advice would you say to someone who maybe hasn't, because if I get it correctly, Sonia, you didn't really see it. You knew what you wanted, but you didn't really see it yet. And so Wendy helped you see it.
I think none of us, I don't think any of us saw it. I think at the beginning, we were just putting in our piece. I can do this, you can do that. Let's see how this thing works. The magic was so strong, in my opinion, that we built, on each other's strengths. Wendy knows everyone on the planet, and she really does. I am a graphic designer by trade and marketing. And Sorrel is complete business everything. I mean, this woman she is just smart by accident. I mean, I don't even know, she just has it, And so you just bring those things that I don't have, the things, that my weaknesses are these ladies' strengths. And I believe vice versa. So we just kind of allow each other the ability to flourish and shine on our own. And that helps all of us shine.
Wow. That's
incredible. I'll add that even though we did come with very disparate skill sets that really did kind of like meld into a really nice sort of conglomerate, we did have a pretty central focus when we got together. We had an intention really to bring a fresh breath to the industry. It was really kind of a centerpiece for us to really push for inclusivity in aesthetics, which is a sense that has been missing from the industry for a very long time. I think really until all of the sort of country decided it wanted to be woke in 2020, aesthetics really ignored most of the population outside of Caucasian women. And there have been some inroads made since that time, which have been great. But as a result, we still, to this day, meet people who say to us, "Oh, I thought Botox was just for white women." They didn't feel that the industry reached out to them or was inclusive of them. And so that's one thing that we were clear about, even though we didn't know what the picture of Peel House was going to look like as a building or as an entity. We knew that we wanted it to be a safe space for everybody of all skin types, of all characteristics, to be able to come and get safe and effective treatment for their skin. Because one thing that's universal is everybody likes to feel good about themselves. It does not matter who you are, right? And we wanted to be able to provide that service in a space that people could really feel they belonged in.
Inclusivity is a problem across the board, but because there's been so much information on social media, in media in general, you're saying that Black women and women of color and people of color, because it's not just women who are having these procedures, but people of color were still feeling that they were not included in the industry.
Yes. And, historically, we know that training programs have not done a good job of teaching about skin of color across the board. A lot of times, so my background before aesthetics was in family medicine, dermatology, and plastics. And I would see, I can't tell you how many times I saw patients who had very basic skin concerns, but they had been seen by provider after provider who had misdiagnosed them because they couldn't recognize something as simple as psoriasis or eczema in skin of color, in a pigmented person. And so we have that history of understanding that, like, some people don't know how to appropriately treat our skin, and as a result, people have suffered in, in some circumstances where they've had inappropriate treatments done. They may have had scarring even, as a result of treatments that were not appropriate for them. And I know for myself, when I'm looking for care for myself, I often look for providers that look like me, who have some degree of an understanding maybe of my experience. And we find that that's true. Now, we provide services for everyone. We are not only focused on skin of color. We have many, many patients across the entire spectrum, right? They represent everybody. But it is important for us to know, to have patients know rather, that we're here and we understand how to treat them, and they can get care that is safe and appropriate for them.
So you opened in September of 2023.
Yes.
How has that been, which is not long, particularly in a place that's new, right? This is a new discovery or a new opportunity for people to cover there in DC. What has business been like for you all since you've opened?
So I'll take that question. What we love about Capitol Hill is that it is distinctively its own ecosystem, and it's a mixed use community. In that, I mean, people both work, play, and live there and entertain themselves on Capitol Hill. They love the convenience of being able to come into that zip code and be able to walk to a restaurant and have a great meal with family and friends. They appreciate being able to go to one of the political parties clubs that are available on Capitol Hill, or to take in art, or to take in music, or just work on Capitol Hill. So it was very important for us to be a part of a system that sort of worked with all of those core attributes. And so that was one of the reasons why we were keen on being a part of a community that was structured like Capitol Hill. It really doesn't exist to that degree as it does on Capitol Hill. It's very unique in that sense. However, I'll add that there was nothing that looked like or felt like Peel House Aesthetics and plastic surgery. So being, as you introduced us, Sonia, we are the first medical spa practice and plastic surgery center on Capitol Hill. And that element was not on Pennsylvania Avenue or Capitol Hill. So we were able to bring that in very conveniently to Pennsylvania Avenue. So it's been a matter of friends telling friends. It's been a matter of people walking by and going, oh, I didn't know they were there. And it's a bit of a habit too. So our space is situated in a historic building, a historic site. It was once Frager's Hardware. So that building has been in existence for over 100 years. So the community by and large had already been in practice of being in that area of Pennsylvania Avenue and doing good business. And so for us to go into that space, and it was just a dark space when we looked at it, and to have an architect take our visions and build it out to a state-of-the-art facility has been absolutely exciting. And I think that piece of excitement translates when folks walk into the door to, have their appointments or to come in just to simply ask questions about, their concerns and how we can address them. I think all of those things come together very nicely. And we have done very well with a lot of good word of mouth amongst family and friends. And then our community business partners that we work with and partner with, we have gone out of our way to make ourselves a part of that community. And because we have, other businesses in the community feel comfortable in saying, hey, Have you went to see the folks down at 1105 Pennsylvania Avenue? They do wonderful work. If you want a facial, you can go there. If you're looking for any sort of laser treatments, you can go there. If you want any dermal fillers or plastic surgery, they do it all. And I think that was critically important across all of us owners, that we would be able to address both non-invasive treatments and procedures and invasive like plastic surgery.
So, what I have found in all the years where I've interviewed people and heard their business stories, how much their backgrounds, even if they didn't know it then, prepared them for everything that they are currently doing. And so, I wanted for each of you to talk a little bit about your background and share that connection from some of the things that you were either taught or some of the jobs that you had, and how it has totally supported the work that you are doing now.
So I'll start with that question, Sonia. So I've been in the industry of aesthetic medicine for almost 24 years, and I got lucky enough to be a part of a company located in Orange County, California, in Irvine, by the name of Allergan. And it was traditionally an eye care company. But by accident, a product that we now know and understand as Botox Cosmetic that relaxes moderate to severe facial lines. Two doctors, a husband and a wife out of Canada, that were, making adjustments and treatments for problems around the eyes. I don't want to get too technical. Uncovered the fact that patients were returning and said, "Hey, I look so much younger than I did before you start sticking those needles around my eyes." And out of that was born Botox Cosmetic. So by accident, I joined that company. By accident, totally by accident. Totally, because I remember when the recruiter made mention of, she goes, it's this product and it's got a funny name. It's called Botox or something like that. I'm not even sure if they're going to stick with that name. It's botulism in a needle. And I'm like, oh, that sounds scary. And I said, but I like things that are very challenging. And so I joined Allergan just short of them introducing Botox Cosmetic in 2002, because prior to that, all that was made available to dermatologists and plastic surgeons were bovine filler in terms of aesthetics, and CO2 lasers that could only treat a certain skin type, definitely not skin of color. My progression through the industry taught me a lot. I'm working with the top dermatologists and plastic surgeons throughout the industry, top markets, and that has given me the knowledge that I needed in order to help build out Haus Aesthetics and plastic surgery from a perspective of making certain that we make the right connections with the right people, with the right companies, with the right product, with the right technology, with the right innovation. So that's been my piece.
Sorrel?
So, as I mentioned, my background is in family medicine. I did that for almost 8 years, practiced. And I knew I loved it, but I knew it wasn't my end game. I wasn't sure what my end game was. And I just remained open. And I wound up deciding to pursue dermatology mainly because of like a lifestyle choice. I wanted kind of the schedule and the income that was going to support, the things I like to do with my family and my friends. But once I started working in dermatology, it took a while, it took years actually to find a position. Once I started working in derm, I was working full-time still in family medicine and part-time in derm learning, but I had been studying, right? Like, so I was ready. When I got the job, I was like ready to go. And very, very quickly realized I really, really like this. And more so than other things, I've always been the type of person who was good at a lot of things, but never really passionate about anything. And I learn things quickly and then I kind of get bored. So when I got to aesthetics specifically, I was like, wait a second, is this a passion? Like, hold on, because I thought something was wrong with me. I felt like I probably will never have a professional passion, but it became very clear to me really early on that this was something I was passionate about. And because of how quickly aesthetic medicine has grown, how quickly things have moved in the last 5-10 years, I can't get bored. So it's like the perfect situation for someone like myself. In addition to that, it's just a wonderful thing. I've come from managing chronic disease, which is very, very important, of course, right? To being like the happy person, people that, people want to see me when they walk in the door, they're like, hey, Sorrel. And it's happy medicine, which I love. But in terms of preparation, I will say that there was um, one thing in particular that really made the difference in 2020. So at the end of our crazy pandemic year, I took a job with a corporate entity in aesthetics that was actually a pay cut for me. I had been on my own for a year and some change, about a year and a half. And this company recruited me, and I was kind of like, I don't know. And people who knew me in the industry were like, why would you do that? Like, you're beyond that. Your skill set is stronger than this sort of uh, entity. Nothing against them, but,
Right.
I was doing things that were more advanced than what they were offering. And I saw an opportunity because they were very new and the way that their business model was set up. I saw an opportunity to go in and learn details, intricate details about business operations that I would have never had access to. And so I took the job. I gave myself 2 years. I wound up there for a year and 10 months. Right before I was about to strike out on my own, literally days before I signed a contract for another, a studio of my own, Wendy called me and she presented this idea to me, and I sat down. I met with her. And then I met with Sonia and her, and looked at the business plan and asked a million questions. I'm sure Wendy was so sick of me because I kept hitting her. I have more questions. I have more questions. But I saw it, like I saw it coming together. I saw the possibility, and I said to myself, this is why I was at that entity for a year and a half or almost 2 years, right? I needed to learn so many of these details that were going to be very crucial to us in terms of getting started as a business. Because the clinical side of things I had, that I was not worried about. But the business side of things, it's a completely different beast, right? It's a totally different animal. And I felt really well prepared.
Wow, very good.
And she is
Sonia.
a beast. She is a beast. So my background is graphics and beautification. I have been actually working with Wendy Pittman for many, many years, doing a lot of graphics for top accounts across the country, most of which were plastic surgeons, dermatologists, etc., creating their brands and helping to get their businesses started graphically. It wasn't until I was in my early 40s that I did something very crazy and went back to school to become an esthetician.
Right.
Uh, and so, it's never too late. And I was very much thinking that, well, I'm almost ready to be retired. What am I doing? Went back to school, became an esthetician, then went and got my master's certification, and absolutely loved it. I have not looked back, but because you're an owner, at the beginning of a new business, you have to wear 20 hats. So create the logo, create the branding, make sure you have the signage correct. It's been a lot of fun on both fronts, but it's definitely a lot of work, but it's been fun making things beautiful, making people beautiful. And I love it. And I'm very happy to be able to do those things with these two beautiful women.
Yeah, it's amazing how all of your talents are so connected and so interwoven and support and complementary of each other. Are there ideas to branch out in the DC area or in different places of the country or world?
Maybe.
Okay.
There are people who want Field House in other places. We shall see.
Yeah.
Well, because you haven't been there a year yet. Are there things that you see just in the next few months that customers can expect or clients can expect from you?
We're working on some
That you would
things.
share?
No, no,
Okay.
but we are working on some things. So stay tuned and pray for us.
Right. Absolutely.
One
You
thing I'll
also,
say,
yes,
sorry.
thank you, Sorrel.
One thing
You'll
I'll
give us a
say,
little
so
something.
yeah, I'll give you a little something. Geez, Sonia. One thing I'll say is that we are very much focused on therapies that are innovation forward, and we're rooted in science. Everything that we do is evidence-based and proven. Patients ask me all the time, well, what's your favorite whatever? And I'm like, if it works, I like it, right? That's the
Right.
answer. We love things that work and we want them, and we're interested in specifically forwarding the conversation about the direction that aesthetics is headed in, right? Because we know sort of where it is currently and historically where it's been. And these are beautiful places. We love things like Botox Cosmetic. We love VIPO. We love PRX Derm Perfection. That's kind of on the forefront of where the industry is going. But like things like dermal fillers have been centerpieces of aesthetics forever, and they're still very important tools. However, aesthetics is moving in a new direction. It's looking towards regenerative medicine. How do we biohack? How do we work the body, right? Use the body's own properties to help in the beautification process and in improving the health of the skin. These are things that we have particular interest in. So while we can't go into details about what we have brewing, know that everything that's coming is on the cutting edge. Like we are looking at things that are new but steeped deeply in science and proven that
And
will help
would you
to enhance
say,
that will help to
no,
enhance the
yeah,
overall experience of our patients. Yeah.
right. And it sounds like that is your competitive advantage, that everything is medically studied, scientifically proven. Is that correct? That is
Absolutely.
one of the driving pieces of your business?
For sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because it's important for us to maintain a level of responsibility in our work because we're cash based. And we don't take insurance. It can be, we see situations, especially outside of DC. DC has pretty good regulation, excuse me, but in some states there are people who have the ability to inject products like fillers and neurotoxins who have zero medical experience. We don't stand behind that. We don't support that. We feel like these are medications. They should be administered by someone who understands medication, as well as with a sense of responsibility for making sure that we're maintaining balance, we're maintaining natural appearances in people, et cetera. So all of the things that we do are with that in mind. And I think that's also a huge advantage that we have is that our patients know that when they come through our doors, they're going to walk out not looking other than themselves. They're going to look like themselves on their best day.
Right, right. And I'm glad you brought that up. Are there some questions that you can offer the audience that, if they're not in DC and going to Peel House, what are some questions that people should be asking? I don't even know who they are, right? These people who have no medical degrees and are injecting things in people, but some of the questions that they can ask so that they don't have a mishap, so that they don't have a medical crisis that they have to deal with.
Well, my short answer is that you shouldn't go to someone who's unlicensed, period.
Period.
And right, just don't. It's not a good idea. Oftentimes, they are utilizing products that are not FDA approved because you need medical licensure to even obtain these products. So they may be purchasing their products overseas if they don't have a medical director. And we have recently seen in the news lots of reports of people being harmed, injured as a result of counterfeit Botox and other products that were not used properly. People contracting HIV. I mean, that's crazy from microneedling. It's insane. These are not things that should ever happen. So I would say stay away from the folks who don't have medical licensure. Stay away from Groupon for these treatments. Groupon is great for like a massage, or for like a manicure, but it's not great for a medical treatment. You will notice that any provider in our aesthetic space who is worth their salt is not on one of these discount sites. And cheaper does not mean better. So it's always, when you do go to a provider who is licensed, the questions that you want to ask are questions that mean something to you. You would ask them questions about their education, if that matters to you, but you can certainly ask them questions about their history, how many patients they treat, especially if you are a person of color or if you have some other defining characteristic that's a bit different from whatever we would consider the norm in your area. You might want to ask them about their experience with treating that particular thing, because just because they're licensed doesn't mean that they know how to treat your particular skin condition or concern. I always tell people to ask for before and after pictures. Look at people in the office. See what the staff looks like. If you walk into the building and everybody's face looks completely overdone, likely that is an aesthetic that they like. And there's nothing wrong with that. We don't discriminate, but that's just not what we do. And if that's not what you're looking for, you may want to consider otherwise.
Wow, thank you so much. Well, please tell our audience how they can reach out to you, follow you, and support you.
Absolutely. They can go to our website at peelhaus.com. That's PEELHAUS.com. They can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Peel Haus. And definitely, follow all of those and then follow us. I am Aesthetics by Sonia, and Sorrel and Wendy can let you know what their handles are as well.
My handle is Wendy_Pittman. So Wendy is common spelling, just like the burger place, _Pittman, P as in Paul, ITTMAN on Instagram.
And I'm Sorrel, my first name, S like Sam, ORELLE _the_injectress.
Injectress. Okay. Thank you all so much. This has been so informative for me, and I know for the audience, but we definitely want to have you back because we would love to follow your journey and hear about all the wonderful programs and services that you will be offering. So thank you so much for being here, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you for the privilege.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening. We'll be back again next week with another great guest. Take care.
The Business First podcast is hosted and produced by Sonia Aline. Executive producer Ken Johnson. Find the Business First podcast on Apple Podcast, Stitcher, Spotify, Odyssey, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, TuneIn, or wherever you get your podcast. On social media on IG at business_first_podcast. Follow the Mean Old Line Media Podcast Network on IG at Mean Old Line Media. Get the Mean Old Line Media app in the App Store or Google Play. The Business First podcast is a Mean Old Line Media production.